Elon Musk, Tesla, SpaceX, and the quest for a fantastic future. Ashley joins us now from San Francisco. And this is really fascinating stuff, Ashley. I was unaware that the cars were coming out with glitches, sales weren't being closed, and Musk and his sort of top generals were kind of freaking out and had to run to Larry Page for a little bit of help.
Yeah, I mean, in the public at the time, I mean, the car was getting good reviews, and it was a good car in a lot of ways. It was kind of unexpected that Tesla could produce something as solid as it did, but the early buyers were kind of these early adopters, and the door handles were flaky, and the windshield wipers weren't going right, and this was kind of putting off buyers that were sitting on the side deciding whether they were going to change their pre-orders into actual purchases.
So what was the deal? Was Google going to buy Tesla outright? Were they going to broker a sale? Was Musk going to stay on?
Yeah, basically, Elon went to Larry Page and he said, look, I don't know if we're going to make it. Could you lend us a lifeline? And Larry, they had a handshake deal, and Larry would agree to buy Tesla. Elon would stay on as essentially the CEO of the company for at least 8 years, or until the company was able to produce its third generation car, sort of a more mainstream $35,000 car. Elon wanted to be sure that product came to market.
So if they shook hands on it and it seemed that Larry said yes, Elon said yes, and it didn't happen, what's the relationship between the two now?
Well, I mean, they're friends, and there haven't been huge tie-ups between Tesla and Google. It's kind of interesting because Google's got so much autonomous technology, but Tesla's been developing its own, and so it's kind of funny because, as I learned about this, I thought maybe they would have stronger ties, and there's been flirtations, but there's nothing serious. I think Elon, he likes to have some independence, and he feels like Larry has this big kingdom going on at Google, and Elon wants his own stuff as well.
So, I mean, you asked Larry about this, and he said, listen, no comment, but we're far from a car company. That's not really what Google knows. But the truth is, Google does have its own car. It does have projects in development. What's the likelihood that it eventually ends up competing with Elon Musk's Tesla?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. Google's kind of gone down this different road, focusing so much on autonomous vehicles in the car that it has put out so far this kind of little sort of smart car looking thing, I don't think would compete with where Tesla is right now, and Google's seem to be more hesitant about becoming a mainstream car maker, but it's hard to imagine that they don't start butting heads here pretty soon.
When you worked on this book, how sensitive is Elon Musk? How sensitive that he wants to control his story and the story of Tesla?
Well, I think, Elon he's a pretty forceful character, and I think, he's a very truthful, forthcoming guy. He tends to have a very clear view on things, and not everybody shares that view. I did find, if Elon tells you something, you could usually count on it being accurate. It's just that some people might have a sort of different take on exactly how things played out.
So, for example, many people who think Elon Musk is the original founder, it was his idea, it's his baby. He wasn't. He was the first investor.
Yeah, I mean, Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning founded this company called Tesla and came up with the business plan for it. They were struggling to find any funding. Nobody in Silicon Valley wanted to fund an electric car maker. And Elon, he'd been thinking about doing an electric car really since like his college days, and he'd been sort of looking at different companies to maybe fund. And so when these guys came along, he was the only one who stepped up to put in money with them. And then, as time went on, Elon took more and more control over Tesla and was very influential in sort of the Roadster, the first car as well.
And where are they now?
Where are the founders now? Well, I mean, Elon and Martin Eberhard they sued each other in court, and they came to a settlement, and they have a long-running dispute. Martin and Mark got very wealthy from Tesla and have been off sort of doing their own thing, but the relationship is very tense to this day.
All right, Ashley, thanks so much for joining us. Bloomberg News reporter Ashley Vance. Be sure to check out his new book, Elon Musk, Tesla, SpaceX, and the Quest for a Fantastic Future. It's due out next month.
Market Makers back in a few. Stay here. I mean, that's absolutely awesome.
I could not be more overjoyed for the guy. There is no higher honor in our sport called journalism.
There you go. Zach Miter making Harvard proud. Okie doke, we got to move on. How about some more on the takeover offer in big pharma Teva? $40 billion offer for Milan. Bloomberg's David Weiner covers the Israeli-based Teva. He joins us now from Tel Aviv, and Bloomberg healthcare reporter Drew Armstrong is right here by our side. David, I want to start with you. What do they want out of this deal?
Well, Teva has its best-selling drug Copaxone. It's been on the market for more than 2 decades. It's a $4 billion drug. It's the best-selling drug in the multiple sclerosis industry, in treating multiple sclerosis. That drug is going off patent this year, and it's going to face generic competition. So for Teva, this is an urgent moment to act, to do a deal that will immediately be accretive, that will immediately help it grow. And so I think this is the urgency you're seeing here, the largest ever deal that Teva has ever proposed, 4 times bigger than anything Teva has ever done, and the biggest deal being proposed out of Israel ever.
Drew, we have a situation where there are effectively 2 competing unsolicited bids, not for the same company, but Teva going after Milan, Milan going after Perrigo. Is there a sense right now as to which one is more likely to succeed?
Yeah, I mean, this is a soap opera. And no, I don't think that there is necessarily a sense right now of exactly how this is going to play out. We're still waiting for Milan to make formal its $29 billion offer for Perrigo. That's going to upend this entire thing. Both of these companies, Milan and Teva, have very fiercely independent personalities at the executive level and at the cultural level. They don't particularly like each other.
Then what will happen?
This could get nasty at some point. I think, there's Robert Corey, Milan's chairman, guy's a big personality. He really wants to hang on to his company. The Teva people, they have a very strong identity, huge part of Israeli industry over there. But
if he doesn't, if he can't hang on to Milan, do these guys have massive payout deals?
I mean, everybody's going to, we've seen this time and time again in the pharmaceutical industry. A lot of people, are making great golden parachutes when they get out. But honestly, the Milan folks, when you talk to them, they have been saying for the last year that they want to do a huge, big deal of their own and make a buy. They're not interested in getting bought.
They love the drugs.
David, is there a risk here that if if Teva isn't successful buying Milan, that Teva itself becomes a takeover target?
I think that's highly unlikely at this stage. I mean, Teva, with its market cap having risen to, where it is now, over $50 billion, it's a bit too expensive for most players. I mean, Pfizer was one of the, would be one of the few companies able to do that. But as as we've reported in the past, Pfizer, there would be quite a few problems. One of which is that Teva, being the national crown jewel in Israel, would be a very hard deal to do. There would be substantial government opposition, substantial opposition from the labor unions. So that would be very difficult. The main idea here is for Teva to buy Milan, and I think shareholders on both sides of this deal, Drew probably has been hearing the same thing, shareholders both for Milan and for Teva seem to be moving, pressuring management to support this.
You agree?
I mean, it's something that we've seen, and it's really that's probably where the pressure is coming from on this, just given the culture clash that we know about. Teva has said, I believe, that they think that they could save about $2 billion here. They're already in the middle of a big cost-cutting effort alone. I think they've closed around 11. They said they were closing 11 plants last year, looking at 16 more. This would be an option for them. These are 2 of the biggest generic drug makers. Milan makes about 1,400 different medicines. Teva makes about 1,000. There's likely huge overlap. There's some divestitures to do, save some money there. But again,
it just seems like a colossal mess, a huge amount of money and a big mess, and nobody wants to do it.
Yeah, I mean, generic business is all about costs and getting things down as low as you possibly can. If you can find synergies to make, and doing one of these mergers is the way to do it, then that gets your margins up. Milan has made big promises about trying to improve their margins. Teva's facing its own challenges right now. Deals are probably one of the big things that our investors are looking for to meet some of those promises.
For what it's worth, the premium in the deal right now is 6%.
That's a little lower than we've seen in the pharmaceutical industry this year.
No. This is on this is ARB spread, right? This is not the announced premium.
Sorry. Yeah, I mean, there's been some when we look at the share prices relative to the offers, there's been some skepticism by investors about whether or not these things are going to get done right now. I think we're probably going to see multiple offers at this point. We've seen these things drag out in the industry this year. You know, I think we're probably going to, at some point, Milan's going to have to step in there and make a formal offer for Perrigo. You know, it sent its letter saying, this makes sense, let's do it. We still haven't seen that formal offer delivered. You know, the Perrigo folks are probably sitting and waiting, seeing how this plays out. They aren't necessarily interested in getting bought at the price that's been offered. There's a ton going on in this. Love is probably the wrong word, but there's a triangle of some sort.
David, before we let you run, can you tell, or is there any sense in Tel Aviv right now how aggressive Teva is willing to be? How much more there may be for Milan beyond the cash and stock that's already on the table?
Well, you know, all I can say is if you look at the history of the CEO, a new CEO at Teva, he's been there about a year. When he's made a strategic move of that sort, he's usually delivered. He used to work for this food company called Strauss, a national food company. He decided to make a move and expand in Brazil. Big merger there, he delivered, and then he did the same for an agrochemical generical company in Israel called Machteshim. He was able to do a merger with China. Also, there were huge problems there. He was able to deliver that. So if he's decided to go ahead with this, and this is very problematic in many aspects, as we've discussed, antitrust issues and the cultural issues, if he's decided to go ahead with this, he sees this going through. That's my sense.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for breaking it down. Bloomberg's own Drew Armstrong and David Wayner joining us from Tel Aviv.
Coming up, everybody.
Can I just say how much I love it when we have an amazing segment and both of the guests are our own Bloomberg reporters. There you go, Drew. And Drew looks great in those glasses. Just saying.
All right, folks, as I was saying, GE is not done shrinking its finance unit.
Well, Earth Day began back in 1970. Would you have guessed that?
No.
I would have guessed like 1991. Well, it began as a way to promote environmental protection. 45 years later, the question we're asking is how far have we come? With us via Skype is Bruce Placek. He is one of the top environmental consultants to Fortune 500 companies and author of best-selling books World Inc. and Doing More with Less. He's also president and founder of AHC Group, a management consulting firm specializing in environmental corporate matters. Bruce, big day for you. I'm guessing one that you celebrate every year. You celebrate it every day. So let's take a moment. Give us an idea. What companies are you, whether you're working with or look at, that you think have really made a shift and really care about this initiative?
Yeah, Stephanie and Eric, I'm glad you're covering this subject because I've been involved in 30 of those 45 years. And the main change is that innovation is now the sister of sustainability. So environmental friendly means make better products, better, more efficient products for your home, your car, your computer, your backyard. So the answer, Toyota, when they came out with the hybrid powertrain about a decade ago, there are now 7 million hybrids sold in 90 different countries around the world. So you have to ask yourself, when you think about Toyota, what does that mean not only for the profits of Toyota, but also the meaning of sustainability? Well, it means 49 million less metric tons of carbon going into the atmosphere, less urban smog and particles, where 4/5 of the world will be living in cities. And it also means 4.75 billion less gallons of gasoline consumed. So better products make a better world. That's what we've learned on the Earth Day. So that there are 27 different models of hybrids now sold by Toyota around the world, of which 12 alone are sold in the U.S., even to the Lexus line. So oil and gas and the spin of your utility dial define the future of environmental progress, because energy, environment, and the economy are tightly tied in, those three E's. So I start with Toyota. Eric and Stephanie, if you go to the oil patch, there's a really interesting thing that your very affluent and informed and influential households can go to. If they go to COSIA, COSIA.ca, it's $1 billion property agreement between 14 oil CEOs on how to reduce land impact, tailings, how to reduce greenhouse gas and air toxics, how to reduce water consumption. It's called COSIA because it stands for the Canadian
Bruce?
Oil Sands Innovation Alliance.
Bruce, may I interrupt you for just a moment? You
Sure.
are pointing to some important examples. From what I understand, you've worked with more than 40 companies in the S&P 500 on environmental responsibility and sustainability, conservation, and the like. What percentage of those companies would be doing what they're doing if their customers weren't demanding it? Would any of these companies be doing any of that?
I think it's even better. There is the customer demand for a better burning gas, for a better car, for a more efficient home, smart homes, etc.
Or for that matter, I should add, if government weren't requiring it.
Right. In addition, what's really fascinating is that Wall Street itself is beginning to separate the good players from the bad players. So take, for example, in this swift and really severe world, there are the speculative capitalists that are only looking at the quarter, but then there's also the longer-term players that are looking at innovation. So there is a new trend in many of the valuation houses, from MSCI to Bloomberg, called ESG metrics, environment, social, and governance metrics, where people are responding to that voice of the consumer, but even more actively to the flow of money. Eric. So in the last 10 years, maybe the last 8 years since the 2008 global financial meltdown, the people on Wall Street and in FTSE are quite serious about picking winners that have some sustained value. And so you can now differentiate a bad oil player from a better social responsive oil player. You can now differentiate a better car from a less governed car that's quite ignorant of some of these social expectations. So I would say it's the combination of customer demand, ESG,
Bruce,
Wall
we gotta
Street
leave it there.
metrics.
Bruce, we gotta leave it there. Happy Earth Day. Bruce Placek, president and founder of AHC. We will see you tomorrow. That's gonna wrap us up for Market Makers.